On the 27th of October, at 3:20 a.m., Ukraine's defense forces announced what may be their most consequential strike on Russian military assets in months. The operation did not target Russian-made hardware, but rather a fleet of Chinese-manufactured drones, reportedly worth around $950 million, deployed to back Russian forces across multiple frontline sectors. This strike represents a turning point in the intricate logistics network supporting Russia's war machine. With Moscow increasingly reliant on foreign partners to sustain its arsenal, Beijing has emerged as a critical but discreet supplier of advanced reconnaissance and strike systems. Through a carefully coordinated operation, Ukraine succeeded in intercepting and destroying a major portion of the fleet before it could be integrated into Russia's command and control network. The scale of the loss is enormous, both in financial terms and strategic impact. The estimated $950 million in destroyed assets reflects months of covert collaboration and logistical coordination between Chinese defense contractors and Russian military channels. The Ukrainian Ministry of Defense revealed the strike is part of an ongoing campaign to sever what officials call Russia's foreign supply arteries. The campaign employs kinetic strikes, electronic warfare operations, and intelligence efforts to erode the external backbone of Russia's war economy, which relies on technologies from ostensibly neutral states that in practice provide material support. Early assessments indicate the drones were transported via logistics corridors, linking Russia to Chinese supply hubs through Central Asia, routes that cross Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, and have drawn international scrutiny. Intelligence sources identified the intercepted drones as XEH-12 Recon Strike Systems, a hybrid platform capable of both surveillance and strike missions. Built by Chinese manufacturers under civilian cover, the systems were reportedly modified for military use once inside Russia. Sources say the operation combined aerial strikes with electromagnetic disruption, neutralizing the drones before destroying their storage and command facilities. While Kyiv has withheld the exact location for security reasons, reports point to regions of occupied eastern Ukraine, where the drones were presumably being staged for a coordinated winter offensive. The implications extend well beyond the battlefield, exposing Beijing's indirect involvement in ways that are diplomatically uncomfortable. Although Chinese officials consistently deny providing lethal aid, Western intelligence has repeatedly documented non-lethal shipments that end up in military use. The neutralization of these advanced drones adds credence to claims that China's industrial networks are supplying Russia with combat-grade technologies beneath the radar. For Ukraine, the symbolic impact equals the tactical achievement, reinforcing its image as a nation capable of countering major powers in Russia's orbit and showcasing its growing technological warfare capabilities. Analysts note that this success depends heavily on Ukraine's deepening integration with Western defense networks. A rapid transfer of real-time satellite intelligence, advanced radar systems, and shared data analytics has enabled Ukrainian units to map supply routes and track cross-border shipments, an integrated framework that likely enabled the timely identification and strike. The diplomatic consequences are beginning to unfold. Beijing's initial reaction has been cautious. State media emphasized neutrality, but analysts argue this narrative is increasingly fragile. The destruction exposes China's role more visibly and places it in a precarious position with respect to international sanctions. Meanwhile, Moscow's official line has dismissed the event as Western disinformation, but internal sources indicate the loss has caused disruptions in Russia's drone warfare command structure. Some units are said to have degraded capabilities. This event underscores a mounting vulnerability in Russia's wartime logistics. With sanctions hitting domestic production, Moscow's dependence on external partners like China, Iran, and North Korea deepens. However, Ukraine's successful operations targeting those supply lines raise serious questions about the sustainability of that dependence. Perhaps the most striking element is Ukraine's ability to act preemptively. By neutralizing foreign-supplied weapons before deployment, Ukraine is shifting the dynamic from defense to strategic disruption, showing a sophisticated grasp of the global supply networks powering Russia's military. At dawn, Ukrainian officials released restricted footage of distant explosions, symbolizing a major psychological victory and underscoring Ukraine's capacity to dismantle the external mechanisms fueling Russia's aggression. For the international community, the event reignites debate over the degree to which external actors sustain Russia's war machine, and poses an uncomfortable question for Beijing about its neutrality. This operation highlights that the conflict is a sprawling network of alliances and covert supply chains, and the destruction of these drones has exposed the hidden geopolitical machinery driving the war. The aftermath is sending ripples through diplomatic and military circles, shifting from a tactical victory into a significant geopolitical message. In Beijing, the reverberations are especially awkward. Chinese officials have long maintained a posture of neutrality while permitting dual-use exports, often labeled as agricultural drones or civil components, to transit through Central Asia. This operation has stripped away much of that ambiguity. The destroyed drones carried unmistakable markers of military-grade engineering. Intelligence analysts now claim this fleet was part of a broader procurement scheme, and by striking early, Ukraine disrupted a whole logistical chain, uncovering the scale of collaboration between the nations. For Russia, this marks the breakdown of a strategic initiative. With sanctions crippling its ability to manufacture high-performance sensors, Moscow had turned to unmanned systems from China to compensate for its declining manned air power. That reliance has proven a double-edged sword, exposing its supply lines to interception. Reports indicate the operation was months in the making. A network of analysts tracked supply routes via satellite imagery, intercepted communications, and pattern recognition. The electromagnetic phase was critical. Ukrainian units jammed control frequencies, effectively neutralizing the fleet before precision strikes were executed. This dual approach, melding cyber, electronic, and kinetic warfare, has become a hallmark of Ukraine's evolving doctrine. International observers note that Ukraine's mastery of electronic warfare marks a significant shift in the technological balance. Where Russia previously held the edge, Ukraine, with Western assistance and homegrown innovation, has forged formidable capability. Diplomatically, the incident places China in a difficult position. Western governments are likely to cite the event to justify tighter export controls on companies suspected of aiding Russia. Beijing's response has been measured, reiterating calls for dialogue, though the event threatens to undermine the credibility of its defense export narrative and strains its plausible deniability posture. In Moscow, internal frustration is evident. Some commentators are openly warning about over-reliance on foreign technology. For the global defense industry, the operation underscores that even advanced unmanned systems are vulnerable to integrated countermeasures, likely boosting demand for anti-drone and electromagnetic warfare technologies. Moreover, Ukraine's Western allies view the incident as validation of their support, evidencing that intelligence sharing and technology transfers are producing strategic outcomes. The ripple effects extend to Central Asia. Nations such as Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, which served as transit routes, are now under growing pressure over their roles in shadow supply chains. Within Ukraine, the operation has come to symbolize national confidence, signaling a shift from defensive warfare to strategic disruption. Psychologically, the strike undermines Russia's narrative of limitless external support, sending a clear message to its partners that involvement in the war carries real risk. In Kyiv, the mood is cautiously optimistic. President Volodymyr Zelensky described the strike as a blow not only to Russian assets, but to the global system that enables aggression. Western allies echoed the view, commending Ukraine's capability to counter high-tech threats. The operation validates months of coordinated intelligence sharing, combining satellite imagery, signal intercepts, and cyber reconnaissance into an unprecedented model of multinational defense collaboration. The collaboration points to a new phase of the conflict. Ukraine is acting as a co-developer of modern warfare doctrine, integrating cyber operations, AI, and real-time data fusion. It also highlights cracks in Russia's dependence on its allies. In recent months, Ukrainian intelligence has exposed Iranian drone production, flagged North Korean missile transfers, and now taken out Chinese assets. This pattern shows that Russia's allies are not invulnerable, potentially eroding their confidence and deepening Moscow's isolation. Geopolitically, the operation strengthens the narrative that Ukraine is methodically dismantling the mechanisms that empower Russia's aggression, which helps energize Western public support. It challenges Russian propaganda by proving that foreign alliances cannot substitute for weak logistics. The event also underscores an emerging trend in the global arms trade, the vulnerability of modern supply chains, where control over technology flows may matter as much as control over territory. Over the longer term, the event may mark a defining chapter in hybrid warfare, and could spur renewed calls for international oversight of dual-use technology exports. As night falls once more, Ukraine stands not just as a defender, but as a disruptor of global networks of aggression. The remnants of nearly $1 billion in technology stand as testament to precision and patience. For Russia and its allies, the loss is systemic, and for the world, a reminder that the balance of power increasingly depends on the ability to anticipate, adapt, and act.